Hi, everybody. This is Brett Hodson with Bangert Inc. Want to welcome you to our webinar this afternoon. We're going to be covering products from one of our solution partners, HH2, and really excited about what we're going to be bringing you guys all today. One of the key things about the HH2 products is that they will work with all of our customers that are currently on legacy software, the Windows PC type of software, as well as it will work on and work with the next generation cloud native type products. All the HH2 products have been built for the internet, so they've always operated in that type of fashion. And along with that, one of the really neat things about the HH2 team is that the way that they sell and license their product, it's on a month-to-month subscription, and that means they have to earn your business every month and do a good job to keep you on the system. So with that, I think we have something on the order of over 50 of our Bangert customers using HH2 products, and it's probably a little bit higher than that. So with that, I'm going to be quiet and turn the floor over to you, Kevin Hadley. Kevin?
All right, Brett, thanks so much for that introduction.
Yeah.
And as always, we really appreciate the relationship we've had with yourself, everyone there at Bangert for a number of years. We have been in the construction business industry for over 16 years as a company, integrating with various ERP solutions. Today, we're mainly going to be talking about integrating with Sage 300 CRE, Sage 100 Contractor. Those of you who may have transitioned or in the transition, maybe to Sage Intacct, and we also support Acumatica as well. And I think all of these are solutions that Bangert has available at their fingertips today, and we appreciate you joining us. So we'll talk a little bit about the nuances and how things interact. I'm going to take the screen back over and change presenters. All right, very good. And you should be able to see this PowerPoint. So, okay. All right, and anyway, we again appreciate you attending. Let me tell you a little bit more about HH2. So Brett mentioned that we have a little over 50 and probably many more. I didn't do the final count. Companies that are Bangert customers that are actually using HH2 and have been for several years. And the other thing that Brett had mentioned is the fact that HH2 was built in the cloud. Okay, so we're a native cloud-based platform. And the great thing is we were in the cloud before the cloud was cool. In fact, when Brett and I first started working together, there were many customers back in the day who were very nervous about cloud technology. They thought their information was just going to be nebulously out there around the internet, ready for anybody to pull down that was close to your offices, etc. Well, now we all are much more educated and we know better. And we know that for a lot of companies, cloud-based computing is the way to go, especially after having gone through what we have gone through this pandemic for the last couple of years when people really were forced to work remotely. So HH2 was ahead of the curve. We were ready for that. In fact, our biggest years as a company were the last couple of years, as people definitely needed ways in which to collaborate and collect information remotely. The other thing that's nice about HH2 is, again, we were born or built from the ground up to integrate with construction companies. We were not an office platform, etc., that decided to dabble in the construction industry. This particular product, well, our business was built for construction. 100% of our 4,000 plus customers are in the construction industry. Okay, so as Brett mentioned, we can be used on a web browser. We also have mobile devices that can be used, native apps. So we have apps that can be used on a tablet. We support both iOS or Apple devices and Android devices with our products and services. If you're using a tablet, whether it be an iPad or a Galaxy tablet, Samsung, whatever. And then the same thing with mobile phones. We have native apps. The other great thing about having, you've heard me say the term native app. A native app simply means that that app is on your device. It's not a web app. It's an application you'll download from the Google Play Store or Apple App Store, and it can be used offline. So I don't have to have connectivity to actually use the application. Now, of course, at some point in time, if I want the data to sync up to the cloud, I'm going to have data, some type of connectivity for it to go up to the cloud. But if I'm just coding time for my crew and I'm in a remote location, it's going to save the time to my device. I go home or back to my hotel or to the office. I find that I have connectivity and I pull the app to the forefront of my device and it uploads to the cloud automatically. We integrate with a lot of other ERP solutions. Again, today we're focusing on legacy Sage products as well as the newer Sage products as well. So how does HH2 work? How do we integrate or sync with your system? So right now, if you're on those legacy platforms, you probably have Sage located on a server, either in your office, or a lot of companies today are working with Vanguard and other business partners to have their Sage system hosted in the cloud or somebody else's server. And that's completely fine here at HH2, because the only thing that we need to do when we first bring on a client, our very first meeting, doing it remotely, is to get on your server, whether that again is hosted or it's in your office, and we install a service that's going to run on your server. And we point it to the various locations in your accounting system. Okay, so we're going to, pull in payroll, or if we're doing our AP document flow product or our HR system, whatever it is, we're going to be mapping our system into Sage. Now, when we do that, we start syncing over items. Since today we're really talking about payroll, we sync over your employees, all of your jobs, cost codes, extras, GLs, your certified classes. I know that many of you in the Midwest and in other areas deal a lot with unions. You might have to change either union classes or union locals on the fly. You might have to change an employee certified class on the fly. Just know that we support all of that and we bring it over. In addition to that, we bring over your pay types that you've got set up in your system, and even your equipment. So we also support coding time to pieces of equipment or equipment revenue time. Now, oftentimes when I'm at this point, somebody will ask the question, well, how often do you sync with my accounting system? Can I schedule that to run? Can I do an automatic, or can I do a manual sync at any time? And the answer is you can set HH2 up numerous different ways. You can set it up to run in the background once a day. You can set it up to run once an hour, which is very popular. But our most popular today is to do what's called a continuous sync. And a continuous sync just simply means every 5 minutes, our system is going to look for any new data that may have been entered in your accounting system, and we're going to sync it up to the cloud. You don't have to do anything. There's no buttons you need to push. It just runs in the background. It does not slow down your system whatsoever. Okay, so don't think that all of a sudden everybody's going to start losing some bandwidth within the accounting system. That's not going to be the case at all. You won't even know that it's running in the background. Now, what that means to people in the field, people in the home office, it means that when they go to code time in HH2 to an employee, a job, a cost code, a piece of equipment, they're actually seeing jobs and cost codes that came from your accounting system. Now, once those employees code time, those time records are loaded and up automatically into the cloud, of course, if they have connectivity, and then they're run through an approval path that each company sets up unique to their needs. And you can set up multiple different levels of approval, and you can have multiple groups that might have different levels of approval and different permissions to see unique jobs, see unique things within the system. I won't go too deep into detail on that, but just know that HH2, because we've been in the industry for so long, is extremely configurable. All right, I think that's good for the slides. Brett always knows that I'm a fan of being in the product, not just showing you a presentation. One, you're going to fall asleep, you're going to get up from your desk, go get yourself a drink, and then come back and hope that I'm actually into the product. So this is our website. You're going to see this. This is live data, okay, from HH2. I'm going to design I've designed my presentation a certain way. It's just based upon the number of demos that I do. It's pretty much very similar to what a lot of construction companies do. So I'm going to hit login. And you can see off to the left-hand side, right over here, there's a number of buttons. Well, we do a lot more than just remote payroll. We have AP routing and approval. In fact, next week, we are doing another presentation on our AP document routing solution, where you can route invoices, credit cards, etc. We also have a field reports module, which is a daily logs module, allowing companies to capture daily log information, notes, photos, a number of things. We have an HR solution as well. Some of these others are, I won't go into the detail on those. This one's pay stubs, but I'll let you know that pay stubs are now available in our remote payroll product as a dedicated feature that's automatically comes with the product now. We'll talk a little bit more about that as we go along. Okay, let's just do this. I was going to show you a little bit of the back end of the system and how I'm actually going to do that. I like to kind of change things up depending on my audience, and I think it may be beneficial for you to kind of see a little bit of the back end stuff here. So I'm going to click on payroll groups, and I'm going to go into Frank Galloway's crew. And we have a concept of a crew or a group within HH2, and we have a number of things that we can set up in our settings. Okay, I've just called this Frank's my superintendent that I like to use. And in here, these are all of the different things that I can set up and enable or disable. So if I don't want people to code to child jobs or sub jobs, then I would just say, you know what, that is disabled or it's required. So you can see I can do a lot of these things. Do I, as a company, ever allow my guys in the field to change union local or union class? Or do they need to change or add shifts? Do we need to enable certified class? So you can see we do a lot of different things here within the system. In addition, the approval paths. I've got 3 levels on my demo today. I've got a group manager, a job manager, and a payroll admin. You could even add another level. You can add up to 10, but you can add the employee as the first level, having that go to a manager, then maybe to a project manager, then to payroll. Maybe you have an office group that just goes from the employee right to payroll. So you can set up and configure HH2 many different ways. Now let me just jump down here. We're going to go to jobs. Some of you might want to limit what jobs a crew sees. This would be the screen that you do that. I always encourage people to say, you know what, there's a reason why you have an approval process. Just grant them access to all jobs and trust your approval process. They'll get used to the system and don't worry about it. Because if you don't grant all access, that means every time you get a new job, you may have to assign it to a crew. So just know that there's some pros and cons to doing all kinds of things. I can limit what cost codes they see. I can limit what GL accounts they have access to, and so forth, right? So I like to show you really the screens and how easy it is to configure HH2. Now, with that being said, I'm going to log in now as Frank Galloway. Remember, he's my superintendent in the field. I'm first going to show you what the website looks like, and then I'm going to pull up my mobile phone if all my technology works well today, and I'll show you what it looks like on a mobile phone. So in HH2, as I go to the timesheet, we have a couple of different concepts in the system. Now, although I cleared out my time records previously, I was on a webinar yesterday, and the people on the webinar, man, they were asking all kinds of questions. They wanted to see what a time card looked like that had multiple jobs and cost codes on it. So there's actually a lot going on this time card. We even had them saying that they changed someone's certified class. So you'll notice here, I have 2 concrete removal codes, one with a change in classification. So for instance, I'm going to leave that on here. Let's say that Donald Black today spent his whole day doing concrete removal. However, for 4 of those hours, Donald was on a piece of equipment, and according to how we have things set up in Sage, I'm required, if he operates a piece of equipment, he gets that operator rate. So when this information goes into the accounting system, these 4 hours for Donald Black, he's going to get paid his regular rate. And then these 4 hours, he's going to get paid the operator rate based upon your setup in your accounting system. Hopefully that just made sense. Now, does anybody have any questions so far? Again, I'm going to delete some of these records down here if you don't mind. And just kind of clean things up just a little bit as I do that, okay? So let me just kind of refresh my screen and kind of make it clean. The other thing to really know about HH2 is it's very unlike some other software out there. We remember every day the job and the cost codes that these guys have been using, because it's redundant to have to add that job and that code back to your timesheet every single morning you do time. Okay, in HH2, we remember it from day to day. We go along. Now, the boxes that you see here in the middle are pay types. I mentioned to you that we bring over or sync over your pay types. For Sage 300, you're unlimited, right? For Sage 100 Contractor, you're limited to the 9 hard-coded pay types in there. Well, we support all of those, except for pay ID number 7, I believe, in Sage 100, which is piece rate. We're not allowed to kind of push data into that piece rate side. So with that being said, I've just got 2 pay IDs right now that I'm using, at least showing on the screen, regular and overtime. If I had double time, premium time, sick, vacation, holiday, I can add them here. But to keep it clean, we like to also divide the pay types. So for instance, let's say that Lisa Campbell today was working 4 hours on excavating and backfill and then went home sick. Well, since Lisa Campbell went home sick, maybe we allow the employee to code or the foreman to code some sick time or PTO. So up here in our pay type groups, I'm going to click on the field, the paid time off, because I've grouped some pay types. Now, instead of seeing regular and overtime, I see vacation, sick, and holiday pay. And then I've got a decision. Does her sick pay go to a GL account? Does it go to a specific job and code that we've set up, or does it go to the code or the job we're looking at? It really depends on your configuration. We support it all. I'm just going to put 4 hours of sick pay and put a quick note. So I'm going to double click on that. I'm just going to put went home sick. And that's just a note letting the office know why this individual has sick time recorded and the fact that, why I only have 4 regular hours during the day. Okay, so easy enough. Let's go back to my regular pay ID. So just know that we support multiple pay types. If you have more questions about those, we can. Now, let's talk a little bit about my employees or my crew. How did they get on my sheet? What if someone, when Lisa went home, I needed someone else on my crew for that afternoon, right? That I may pull off another job because we need to get some stuff finished. Well, if another person joined my crew today, I have the ability up here in the members tab, upper right-hand corner, to click on that and either search for the employee or come down here and say, hey, it's Mark Crocker. And I'm going to take Mark and I'm going to add Mark to my crew. So here's Mark Crocker. And let's say that Mark worked for us the second half of the day doing or finishing the work Lisa Campbell was doing, right? So again, very easy to do, added an employee, coded time for them, we're good to go. Now, one other thing to note, Mark may have been working for another foreman today. That other foreman can code the 4 hours of his job for Mark, and Frank Galloway, who I'm logged in as, can also code time to Mark Crocker. Okay, again, very simple, very easy. So then last but not least, what I like to cover on this screen is how do I get that job added? You saw the jobs previously, but how do they get on my timesheet to begin with? So down here below, I can hit add codes. And when I go to the add codes area, I'm going to bring up a selector, okay? And in here, I'm going to talk about a couple of other nuances in the system. You'll notice that I've got a regular job, Northwest Food Warehouse. I've got the Clackamas Office Park, but it is listed twice. Why would that be? And that is because HH2 supports subjobs or extras in the system. So if I wanted to code to the main job, I would click the Clackamas Office Park job and go to the cost code list. And I would see all of the cost codes that have been set up in the budget on that job that have a labor category. If I'm say 300, if you're 100, it's a code that has a budgeted item for it of labor. Okay. Now we're not going to choose anything. We're going to go back to that list and actually show you the extra. So now if I chose the extra or the sub job, you'll notice for that there's only one labor code. So if I happen to just add that to my system, then now I've got a job up here and I also have an extra, and it lists the main job and then the extra and then that cost code. So if some of my guys were working 3.5 hours doing asphalt paving on this job, and then I had them run over to this job and work on the sprinkling systems or irrigation systems, I can easily do that. So clean, easy user interfaces to do this. So I'm going to pause for just a minute before I do more about the clock in and clock out stuff and how we currently handle things in HH2 to see if there's any questions that may have come up around what we call a daily time card. Okay, so I'll kind of wait to see if there's any questions that come through. While I do that though, and again, don't be shy because maybe your question might be something that somebody else might have. I'm going to click on the daily and I'm going to switch to a weekly time card to give you an idea if you want to just fill out someone's weekly time card. So you'll notice Wayne Daniels was the last person I did a daily time entry for. I just went up here, clicked on weekly, and it pulled into Wayne Daniels' weekly timesheet. So now I've got his days across the top. Well, let's make it simple. You know, Wayne Daniels, for the most part, the rest of the week, he worked on concrete removal. Let's not overthink this. And that's how easy it is for me to complete his timesheet. If he had some overtime, I can throw 2 hours of overtime. If I want to specify why he had overtime so people knew, I'll put this is why, right? Just a quick comment so people know about it. Again, those are some features. All right, while I was going through there, if we did have a question that came in. All right. Okay, can you show us the employee file portion? Okay, and Ashley, that's a great question, and I'm hoping I understand what you're talking about. So maybe you're just wanting to know a little bit about. Let me go to the daily time card for just a second. I think this is where you're going. Let's say that I'm a foreman. Maybe your question is wrapped around more of changing that certified class. Well, if I don't know what classification he is, how am I going to know what to change it to? Maybe that's why. So let's go here to Donald Black. He's one that I always like to pull up. I'm going to click on Donald's face there. And this is, if this is what you're talking about, this is where I can see that employee's information. Now, of course, okay, great. We'll talk about that just a second, actually. So this is what pulled over from your accounting system, okay? So this is what we're reading. The nice thing is you're not seeing any pay rates in HH2, so that's critical. I get that question oftentimes, like, hey, does the foreman or anybody else have access to anybody else's pay rates? And the answer is no, not in our system. Now, I actually clarified her question a little bit, and she says how to create an employee file like for an admin. So there's no files that you would create for that employee in HH2. Those employees, I'd be interested. Can you tell me which accounting system you're on? If you would throw that in the questions panel, maybe. Okay, you're on Sage 100. Okay, so for Sage 100 Contractor, you're going to put all new employees in Sage. HH2 is going to sync those employees up and in HH2, so there's nothing that you need to do. Now, if you wanted to give someone permissions in HH2, I'll kind of address that when I'm logged back in as the admin. Okay, perfect. And then we'll kind of talk a little bit about that. Great, Ashley. But thank you for the question. Hopefully that was helpful as we kind of talk about that integration. That's what's so critical. And then we'll talk about that employee profile and how to give them permissions a little bit later. All right, with that, let's run over here and do something different. Let's go to what we call an attendance worksheet. And I won't spend a lot of time here. For companies that are required to have in and out times and the fact that employees had breaks, took a lunch, etc., a lot of times they will use in HH2 this attendance worksheet. And I've set something up here where I'm just going to check a few boxes of these employees. We won't do Lisa Campbell today because she didn't work the full day. I'm going to check those boxes and just hit apply. So this is one way to be compliant with the hours that they worked, etc. You're going to break down the job cost, etc. But it allows you to track their time. Now, again, I'll address some other ways in which HH2 can clock in and clock out here shortly. But let's go back to that timesheet for just a minute. So please note, you've got some red now, some red and green colors across the top. Well, for this one, this employee, Mark Crocker, he's 8 because if I hover over this 8 right here, it's going to let me know, hey, his daily totals don't match the numbers below here, right? He's only got 4 hours and yet you've got him down for 8 hours. So again, that's one of those nuances where I kind of get carried away in a demo. So I'm just going to throw him down for 4 more hours and just code him 8. And the same thing, I will do the same thing for John Carson here. We'll just put 8 hours a day. Once I fully allocate those hours for my employees, it turns green, letting me know we're good to go there. Now, that's kind of one way we can do time. We can also clock the employee in and out. And so what I'm going to do at this point is I'm going to pull up my mobile phone. And again, if all my technology plays well today together, you should see my mobile phone. Okay, that's all my apps. It's a busy page. You can see me in the background with my grandson. We've got a big fish there that he caught, and so you know it's my phone. Let's go into the remote payroll app. So this is the remote payroll app, and since we just were talking about clocking in and out, if you're a company that wants to do that, these are the ways that we do it today. So I'm going to tap on the attendance punch clock, and I should have done this previously to the presentation, but I got busy with some other meetings. I'm just going to log in or clock in Frank Galloway for the day. And then if I have another employee I want to punch in, you know, I can choose another employee. Maybe it's Jimmy Franks, and I can clock in Jimmy Franks as well, right? And for those of you who are concerned about buddy punching, we do have a concept. I don't have it turned on, but where this picture is, it can actually be a camera on the phone where it's actually showing the picture of the individual who just clocked in. So one, we know that it was actually that individual. We don't have facial recognition right now, so I don't want to come across as saying, hey, we can't log in or clock in before it scanned the guy's face. We don't have that today, but it can at least take their photo. So if you ever want to go through, do an audit, take a look at it, you can say, hey, there is no way that that's Jimmy Franks. He doesn't look at all like that. That's Bob Brown, right? And Bob clocked in for him for the day. Now, in addition to punching in and out and capturing a photo, if you were to so turn that on, I have something turned on called GPS stamping. So where they clock in and clock out can be recorded exactly where they clocked in. So let me just at the top of my device, I've clocked in Jimmy at 12:34, same thing with Frank. And if I wanted to see where each of them clocked in, I can tap on that button there and I can exactly see the coordinates of where the device was located that I clocked in and out on. Okay, so just know that that's, you know, some things that can be recorded. We do not track GPS throughout the day on the employee, just on the punch. Okay, so those are a couple of punches. Let's go back and take a look here real quick in regards to the weekly time card. Let's tap on the weekly time card here. Again, this was Lisa Campbell's weekly time card. You can see those 4 hours came over from the website. And let's say I just want to record her hours for the rest of the week. Maybe she just did concrete removal. Okay, the other days. We'll put some hours there. And then we'll come in here and put 3.5 hours on this code. Maybe on the other job, she worked another 4.5 hours there. And so we'll put that in there. Okay, so that's a weekly time card, and then I can just go through my employees. One of my other favorite screens is a daily time card, where I will click on the daily time card. And it's Thursday. Let's go back to Wednesday and say I forgot to do time for Wednesday. Well, of course, Lisa Campbell already has time for Wednesday. So up at the top, I'm using this arrow button. I'm just going to switch through my guys. Okay, there's John Carson. I'm going to put 8 hours to excavating and backfill for John. I'm going to go out of John's record. We've got Mark Crocker. We're going to put 8 hours for John there, or Mark. We've got John Erickson. We'll say that John Erickson was working on 8 hours on steel joists. And let's go to maybe Jimmy Franks for that day. We'll do steel joists for Jimmy Franks. And we'll just say 7 hours for Jimmy. Now, again, remember how I did notes on the web. I'll show you how we do them on a mobile phone. So since I've already put in 7 hours, I want to let the office know, hey, I didn't make a mistake on his time. He really only did have 7 hours doing steel joists. I'm going to tap on the detail, tap in the description, and then I'm going to hit the microphone instead of typing. And once I hit the microphone, I can just start talking and describe why this employee only had 7 hours on the job site today. Okay, so something that's easy, I can make a note and the office is going to be able to see that information. Okay, so that's kind of what a daily time card looks like. If I wanted to add a job to, let's go to Frank Galloway for Wednesday. Let's say that Frank Galloway had a new job. So I'm going to tap on this right here. I'm going to go to the job record for Frank. And I'm going to say he had some time on the Metro bus stop job. And he was working on structural concrete and masonry. And I'll add and reset. So now for this employee, I've got that down there. And I'll just say work 3.5 hours there. Okay. Does anybody have any questions in regards to kind of what that looks like from a mobile screen, seeing a weekly time card, a daily time card? I'm more than happy to kind of answer that as well. And we can go back to Thursday for them. Okay, there was a hand raised. We want to see a salaried employee entry. Okay, great. So let's talk a little bit about that. A salaried employee. Now, salaried employees, like for myself, if I were to pull up my time card today, I like to use the weekly view because I only have one code and it's a GL. All of my hours go to an overhead account here at HH2. Our developers, because they work on different products, have different cost codes. But for me, think of it this way, Deidre, I only have one line item and it's a GL code. It's an overhead expense. And so for me, if I'm, let's go to, in fact, let's go to Jose Garcia. Jose Garcia currently doesn't have a GL on his card. So I'm going to hit the plus button. And instead of choosing a job and a cost code, I'm going to go to a GL account. I'm going to say it's just miscellaneous expense for that employee. And so I've added that. So if I'm salaried, I can just come in here and throw my hours in if you want to keep track of those. Okay. Or if what you're talking about, Deidre, Another way of thinking about this, let's say that same salaried employee does work on jobs and cost codes, and you want to keep track of that information. If that's the case, instead of coding their time to regular and overtime, just like myself, I code all of my time to a salary pay ID. And in HH2, for my time card, I have an abbreviation called SAL in that category. So that's the way I do it. Did that answer your question? We can't equate a salaried employee to hours. That's a big no-no. They work on jobs, but a salary pay ID. Okay, and that's fine. So if you want to do that, they can easily, they can equate salaried employees to hours. Yeah, I'm not sure. Deidre, that might be a conversation that we have offline. If you want afterwards, we can contact you and talk a little bit more about that. Again, even if they worked more than 40 hours a week, they'll still get paid the same rate. Like for me, for instance, instead of just putting 8 hours here every day, inevitably I'm 9.5 to 10 hours every single day. But I get paid the exact same as my time goes into Sage. Okay, it's just that it's a salary pay type. I just get paid the same amount. But we can handle that, Deidre, offline. But thank you for the question. Hopefully that was somewhat helpful and educational. All right, we've got about 15 minutes left, so I'm going to kind of hurry through a couple of other things. And I asked for the questions, so thank you very much. Let's do a time entry for a piece of equipment. You can see I've got a couple here already from my demo the other day. Let's say that we're going to code time to a Caterpillar dozer. And pieces of equipment can be coded the exact same way, but I like to show another screen. Because for equipment, a lot of companies are like, hey, as long as the guy codes, how long the equipment was on the job site for the week, I'm good with that. I don't need it so granular. I'm going to hit 8 hours. I'm going to say the Northwest Food Warehouse, let's see here. There we go. We're going to go do this, and we're going to do this other job. Not sure why the cost codes didn't come over there. And I'm going to hit add and reset. So for that particular piece of equipment, I just added the time records to the Clackamas office job doing excavating and backfill. And that's what we were doing there. Okay. So that's one way of doing time. I can also, as you could probably see there, I can copy time from one piece of equipment. I can do the same thing with an employee record as well. All right. With all of that, let's move along. I'm going to hit approval, and this foreman's going to say, you know what, I'm happy with these time records. Click the thumbs up. I'm going to say we're good to go, and all eligible time has been approved by the manager. Now, again, this manager could be also approving time for employees that may have coded time for themselves, but he did it all today. Some work 40, some work some overtime, some work just partial days. But this is his crew for the week. If I want an employee to sign off on their time cards, I can tap in there, bring Donald Black over and say, Donald, these are for your hours for me this week. I've got you down for 8 hours total. 4 hours of those were just regular time, and then 4 hours you were an equipment operator. Does that look good? And he says, yes. And then I say, well, I need you to sign off. You weren't hurt or maligned or injured on the job that week. And he taps there to sign. And we'll just throw some lines in there, and so that's it, right? So we've captured the employee signature on the record as well. So that's really some features and functionality on the mobile device that you can use. Let's go back to that clocked out attendance, and let's just clock out Frank Galloway for a minute. And I'm just going to clock him out just so we can have those time records done. Now, before I leave the mobile device, many of you, once you process and post, if you're doing payroll in-house using your accounting system, Sage 100 or 300, once you process and post that payroll, HH2 actually takes that information, and your employees can view a copy of their pay stubs. So I'm going to go to pay stubs, say, you know what, let me see my last 2 months of pay stubs. There's nothing else you need to do. You don't have to upload anything into HH2. That synchronization or integration client's going to automatically pull that data over. And in the palm of my hand, I'm not searching through 9 weeks of emails. Okay, so today, if you're emailing out pay stubs, stop the madness, allow HH2 to sync that over automatically and allow the employees either on their mobile device or on the web to just go in and see their pay stub anytime they want without going through a lot of hassle. Okay, it is part of our remote payroll product today, so just be aware of that. All right, so that's what a little bit of information and what it looks like on a mobile phone. So with that being said, let's go back to the web and kind of wrap things up. We're going to go out as Frank Galloway, and we're going to log in as Tom Brooks. And as Tom Brooks, we're going to go into the timesheet. And well, sorry, not as the timesheet. Tom Brooks is a project manager. One of my favorite screens for a project manager is what we call a labor detail report. And this is an awesome report for the project manager to see. Tom Brooks is over all of these jobs that I coded to today. I believe he may not be over the that extra, so we may not see that job on here. But Tom Brooks just scrolls down. He sees the employees that were on his job. I can see the cost codes. He can even see why someone had overtime. If you can see that, it's probably a little bit light, but this is why he has OT, etc. And again, remember, Jimmy Frank's on his mobile phone. We hit the microphone and started talking, and I can even see that note of why he had 7 hours that day. So again, a great report. Maybe that's all the project manager wants to see. They're just like, you know what, all I need to do is have access to it. I don't need to do much more. So that project manager gives it the old thumbs up. And he says, I'm happy with these time records. I'm good to go. Okay. Now let's log out and log in as the payroll admin, Laurie Becker. And then Laurie Becker logs in. Again, by the way, as soon as time records are entered in HH2, anyone in the approval process can see those time records at any time, okay? So they're there and available to see. Let's go to the time approval screen. You can see that in here. You've got the different, now, why do I have different buttons here? Some say approve and some say promote. And why do we use these colors? Red kind of means stop for a minute and think about why these time records might be red. Well, a couple of reasons on Lisa Campbell's. If I do a quick look into her timesheet by just either clicking on her name or doing a quick look, I can see that some of these hours were for the Clackamas Office Park job, these 4.5 hours, okay? That means the other project manager over that job has not approved her hours yet. Well, I need to get payroll done, so I'm actually going to promote those hours to my level. Now, the other 4 hours, if you remember, we coded time to Lisa Campbell for the sick pay. So I'm just going to go to those pay types. I'm going to promote that time to my level as well, just to say, hey, I get that. I'm the one who approves any overhead stuff as a payroll admin. So let's go back to this screen. Lisa Campbell's records are okay. And I could even do it right here for Wayne Daniels just by taking a quick look. 10-1, Wayne Daniels coded some time to that sprinkling system. And again, the approvers have approved it. I could look at that log. Let's just promote everybody's time just to make sure we're good to go. Now, once again, if you're concerned about clock in and clock out times, if I come down here to Frank, I can see that he clocked in at 12:34 today, clocked out at 12:46. If I want to see his GPS stuff, I can go to a different screen. I can also see there's a green highlighted box here with a signature. I can see that Donald Black signed off on his time. So if the employee ever comes back and has a dispute, you can go back into HH2, into the time records, and look and see if the employee actually agreed to the above times, etc. Okay, so you've got that in there. So I've shown you different ways in which to review and approve time. To make sure you haven't missed any time, we have filters where you can say, show me everybody with no time, ready time, unapproved time, etc. I can do different conditions, such as show me everybody with less than 40 hours that has time coded to overtime, because maybe we as a company have a policy, nobody gets overtime unless they work a full 40 regular first. So you can set up those. I don't have those set up today. Now, before I leave this screen and show the export, does anybody have any questions about the approval levels or seeing time records as an admin on the side of things? We've got about 8 minutes left, so I want to be making sure we're okay there. Let's just go ahead now, and we're going to approve everybody's time, and let's talk about how the magic happens in getting these time records out of HH2 that have been approved and into your accounting system. So right here, I approved. I'm going to hit export. In the export screen, you say export transactions, and at this level, here's a couple of different nuances between Sage 300 CRE, Sage 100 Contractor, Sage Intacct, etc. Now, for Sage 100 Contractor, when I click that button, we actually push all of the time entries into the 551 daily time entry screen. That is the import that Sage 100 allows us to use to push time entries in. Okay, if I'm Sage 300, therefore I can click on the export time, actually have the export file. I'll open up Sage, Payroll, Tools, Import Time. And then there you will see those records. Now, for some of you who may be looking to the future, some may look at Acumatica, some may look at Intacct, etc. Please know that with Acumatica, we do the same export import. For Intacct, we'll actually push time records today into the time and expense area. Okay, so take HH2 with you. You don't have to wait if you're looking or trying to make a decision to go to a different ERP, you know, that you've talked to Brett and the team about. Just know that you can get going on HH2. We can move with you to that new ERP and not really miss a beat. We're just going to integrate with a different system. Okay, and that's time records from HH2. Couple of fast things. We got 5 minutes left, so I'm going to cover two different things real quick. We never delete your data. It's always in here. You can always go back, go into time approval. If you want to see a PDF of somebody's timesheets, you just click on the PDF of timesheets here. This is how fast and easy it is to gather that information. Here we are. I'm Tom Donald Black. He worked from 7 to 3:30. Here's his hours. We know that he was an equipment operator. We've got his signature here at the bottom. We've got who signed off on his time card. I mean, literally, we've got everything you need to kind of protect yourself as you go back and have any disputes with an employee there. Okay, so those are kind of cool things. Now, last but not least, let's just take you to our website, if you don't mind. I'm going to take you back to HH2, introduce you to our website. Go to hh2.com, go to products, and in the product screen, you'll see that we've got several different items. Again, document flow, you want to learn more about that, click on that, or join us next week for another presentation for this awesome product. Time entry, you want to learn more, click there, daily logs, etc. Let's click on time entry to learn a little bit more, and let's go to pricing real quick, because I want to make people aware of this. So Brett mentioned something that was important at the very beginning, and Brett is unaware that with HH2 in July, we're actually making or changing our prices. Due to inflation, we are taking a little bit of a price increase, so I want to be completely upfront about that. Those prices haven't been on here. You can expect a 15% price increase on this tier. Again, just totally being upfront with you. And the other thing that we are going to be offering as well in the month of July moving forward is a year-long contract with HH2. We've had so many requests for that. People want to be able to do that. So we'll talk a little bit more about that. Please know that with HH2, it's not a seat or license-based product. Once you sign up for a subscription to our services, you can have anyone in your company set up as a user. Okay, so just be aware of that. If you want to know more about pricing or you liked what you were able to see today, please fill out the survey. If you do not happen to get a survey, depending on how our marketing guys set up this presentation, please feel free to contact me. I've been your presenter today. My name's Kevin Hadley. I'm the Vice President of Sales. Contact me at HH2, khadley@hh2.com, and feel free to call my phone number. I'm more than happy to visit with you or hand you off to one of our account executives, and they can even do one-on-ones and dive a little bit deeper into some of the questions you have. But with that being said, I want to be courteous of everybody's time. I want to thank Brett again from Bangert for giving us this platform and opportunity. And Brett, I'm going to let you say the final goodbyes and thank you again.
Kevin, thank you for a great presentation and welcoming all the questions. We're keenly interested in helping, any of our existing customers or new ones that come along. The HH2 team has a great product, great platform. It's worked really well for a lot of folks for a long period of time. So certainly send your questions to Kevin, send them to us. We're happy to help. That's what we're here to do. So with that, have a good rest of your day, everybody.
Thanks, Brett. Thanks, everybody. Have a wonderful afternoon. Bye-bye.